As the evacuation of Hoth begins, a rebel commander looks through a set of macro binoculars. The first thing he sees is a foot. As he pans up, he realizes what the foot belongs to. A larger-than-life metal beast approaches on the snowy horizon. He radios back to the base that Imperial walkers have been spotted. The rebels send their pilots, including of course the film's primary hero, Luke Skywalker, out in snowspeeders to assault the walkers. Although they hope to bring them all down, the goal of the rebels is to protect the shield generators for long enough to give their people time to evacuate. As the speeders attempt their strafe runs on the walkers, Luke comes to a realization.
That armor's too strong for blasters. Rogue group, use your harpoons and tow cables. Go for the legs, it might be our only chance of stopping them.
As Luke approaches, his speeder is struck and a small explosion takes out his gunner Dak.
Where's the music? Dak is dead.
The walkers are firing on the entrenched rebel soldiers. It's a war, and the rebels are clearly outmatched. They're taking casualties, and their only hope is for their speeders to trip up the walkers. It takes ingenuity and a mix of skill and even luck to take down the superior technology of the Empire. They keep trying to take down the other walkers when Luke's speeder is shot down. As the walker continues its approach, Luke tries to pull Dak to safety, but he doesn't have the time, and his speeder is stepped on. Luke has no time to mourn because greater things are at stake. He uses a grapple and his lightsaber to throw an explosive inside the walker, taking it down. As the fight continues, we watch another speeder get shot down, and ultimately some of the walkers eventually reach their objective and destroy the shield power generators for Echo Base. At the end of the day, the speeder's ultimate goal of defeating the walkers is a failure, but they successfully manage to stall for enough time, allowing the rebels to evacuate. This all takes place throughout the first 30 minutes of The Empire Strikes Back, a battle featuring the heroics of Wedge and Luke, the ingenuity to come up with ways to take down the heavily superior and better armed walkers. There is sacrifices by Dak and the other unknown pilots and soldiers, and the base is sacrificed for the greater goal of preserving the rebellion. It's incredible writing, setting the world as a reminder that despite the destruction of the Death Star, the rebels are still outmatched and the underdogs of the fight. The rebels make intelligent decisions and adapt to their circumstances. The plan on both sides of the conflict is simple and makes the most sense. The Imperials need to destroy the power generator so they can assault the base, and the rebels need to stall for long enough that they can evacuate. As the Mandalorian assaults the base of the Imperial warlord, the man begins to flee. The man climbs into an elevator that rapidly descends down the shaft. Mando steps into the room and is told he went down the elevator, so he walks over and drops a few explosives down the shaft to blow him up. The explosion is gigantic, managing to send a fireball all the way back up the elevator shaft, and by all indications, the man should probably be dead, but don't worry, he has a far more absurd plan to enact in all this. After acquiring a mini scout walker, Mando picks up Grogu, who, despite the popular nickname of Baby Yoda, is actually 50 years old. Mando sprints his mini walker down the side of a cliff where he comes across 3 AT-AT walkers walking along the edge of a different cliff. Mando then uses his jetpack to navigate around, placing 2 small detonators on the supporting structure of the walkers. The relatively minor explosion caused the complete destruction of a foot of the walker, sending it tumbling down the cliff. I wonder why those stupid rebels on Hoth didn't just shoot the walkers down with something that could cause an explosion.
That armor's too strong for blasters.
For walker number 2, Mando breaches through a door and begins fighting the snowtroopers in there. He's mathematically outmatched, but of course he has literal plot armor that prevents him from dying. Not that that matters, because he is not shot a single time by any of the troopers in there, because of course this is Disney Star Wars and the Empire must always be incompetent.
And these last points, too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
Mando is then blocked out from the cockpit and goes outside on top of the walker, and an external explosion on the hatch causes the entire cockpit of the second walker to be completely destroyed.
Barely an inconvenience.
Now, why didn't he just take that explosive device and go down to the foot like the other one? I have no idea. As Mando arrives in the third walker, he finds it inexplicably empty. He then storms to the back where he spots the warlord jumping into an escape pod of sorts as it launches out. And it's not an escape pod, it's a full-blown spaceship as he flies at a gradual increase towards the horizon. Mando then rushes back to the walker's cockpit and uses the targeting system to track the warlord, but wait, he's in a trap because there's a bunch of explosions about to go off inside the walker. Grogu spots this and begins to frantically knock on Mando's helmet while Mando lines up a shot. After about 10 seconds, Mando takes out the ship and the explosions go off, destroying the third and final walker. The entire event encompasses about 3 minutes of actual screen time and is just filled with absurd problems. From a story standpoint alone, look at this compared to Empire Strikes Back. In Empire, the Imperials need to destroy a shield generator in order to land at Echo Base. As a way to accomplish this, they send walkers down to assault the shield's power generator. The weight of the walkers can press down into the snow, and their armor is so strong there is no risk of them being destroyed. The vast open field is easy terrain for these to navigate because, despite the name, these walkers are not very all-terrain. The blasters are quite literally just explosions, and they can't even damage the walkers. Had it not been for some clever ingenuity by the greatest hero in the rebellion, their plan would have gone off without a hitch, and despite the clever planning, they ultimately are still successful. There is a massive amount of sacrifice required by the rebels to only delay these walkers. Ultimately, the superior might of the Empire comes out on top in this skirmish. The plan itself is simple and coherent. Now, in The Mandalorian and Grogu, ignore all of the Star Wars canon or bad CGI or goofy moments, and simply try and comprehend the Imperial Warlord's plan here. He runs down an elevator shaft in order to get into some walkers, which only bear the one massively exploitable flaw of bad footing, and decides to have them walk on the edge of a cliff in order to flee the Mandalorian, and only after 2 walkers are destroyed, he jumps into a spaceship to fly away, setting a timer on his explosives for just long enough that it would allow Mando to shoot him down. And then on top of that, the nature of propulsion in Star Wars means once he is airborne, he can literally fly in any direction. He can fly backwards, straight up, left, or right to get into space. He instead chooses to fly in the one direction that allows Mando to shoot him down with a weapon that has a very limited radius it can shoot in. Why did he not just fly away immediately? Why get in the walkers at all? Why not just blow up the walker the second the ship disembarks? Why fly the one direction that allows him to be shot down? Nothing about this plan makes any sense, nor would it conceivably work out in any way. Then, on top of that, why, when the explosives are about to go off, does Grogu just knock on Mando's helmet? Is it because he's just a baby who can't control the Force? No, because he's very aware of his Force powers, and he possesses and has shown that he is easily able to use them to lift things no matter the quantity or size. Why not just force the explosives off the walker? Or is it maybe because the writers wanted to try and score a cheap laugh, sacrificing any semblance of cohesion in an already empty character? I'll let you decide. 3 walkers are completely destroyed in this scene, and only one of which is destroyed by a way that is even possible. I'm supposed to believe a small explosion is enough to completely decouple a foot from the walker when blasters from a ship of war could do nothing against it. It took quick thinking, time, a coordinated effort, and sacrifice for the rebels to even take out 2 of the walkers, whereas Mando just used a couple of explosives and boom, problem solved.
It was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Ultimately, these opening 10 minutes of The Mandalorian and Grogu have literally no impact on the remaining movie that follows, which in its own right is absolutely pathetic for a movie. But even then, it is the perfect chance to look at the culmination of what an entire movie consists of. Characters who have no character, making decisions that are arbitrary and only exist to get to the next action scene or funny Grogu moment. The conclusion of these actions are incompatible with the verisimilitude of the greater Star Wars world, as well as basic logic in and of itself. The rest of the movie is a story about Mando tracking down Rotta the Hutt. Who is Rotta the Hutt, you might ask? Well, he's from an animated movie that is absolutely awful that came out in 2008. In order to accomplish this, he teams up with Zeb. Who is Zeb, you might ask? Well, he's from an animated TV show that was meh at best, which ran from 2014 to 2018. He's doing this because the rebels need to find Imperial Warlord Coin, who I guess is massively important to the remnant of the Empire. Sigourney Weaver says they're trying to prevent another war. Gee, I wonder how that one worked out. In order to find Coin, however, Mando must go to the planet of Nal Hutta and speak with the twins. Who are the twins, you might ask? Well, they first appeared in a complete dog crap TV show that came out on Disney Plus in 2022. Say, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. The twins send Mando to Shikari to find Rotta. Mando arrives on the planet and asks Martin Scorsese for information on the Hutts. Martin freaks out and says they don't talk about Hutts. Then Mando says Rotta the Hutt, and Martin says, oh, Rotta, yeah, he's super famous, and points to a sign of Rotta. This begs 2 questions to me. 1, why the hell would Mr. Scorsese not just assume Mando was talking about the one famous and well-known hut on the planet? Why would he panic when there's literally just a hut that everybody knows? 2nd, elite bounty hunter, Republic special operator, high-level mercenary from a tribe of hunters and warriors arrived on a planet hunting for someone and didn't look around at all at one damn sign and instead walked up to a random food vendor to pay for information. There are literally hundreds of signs that say, hey, are you looking for a gigantic, disgusting slug named Rotta the Hutt? Well, guess what? He's right here. What a complete idiot. Mando speaks with Rotta, who has such powerful lines like, do you know how hard it is to be your own man when your father is Jabba the Hutt? Mando then goes to see Lord Janu, who owns Rotta's contract to buy him out. Janu tells Mando that actually he's just going to have Rotta killed, and that's what he does when all his fighters get to the last fights on their contract. He just has them killed. He then offers Mando a job as one of his fighters. No, I did not make that up. He tells some random stranger who he just met that he fixes fights. Then, that same stranger wants to buy out Rotta's contract to preserve his life, presumably, for whatever reason, tells said stranger that he's going to have Rotta killed, and then tells him that he often has his fighters killed at the end of their contract, then offers him a job fighting for him, after being told he has his fighters killed often. This obviously backfires as Mando goes to break Rotta out of the cage. We get more powerful, incredible, stunning dialogue, such as, "They used to boo me because they feared my father, but then they accepted me once I started winning, and now they cheer for me." Not an exact quote, but it's pretty close. Mando is then captured and allowed to keep his plot armor. He has a gladiator match that is supposed to be a glup shadowing the space chest from A New Hope. Rotta runs away and, I kid you not, jumps into a speeder that somehow fits and supports his big ass as there is a car chase. I remember watching Return of the Jedi and thinking, man, I really want to watch Jabba have a car chase. After catching Rotta, Rotta tells him that Janu is actually Janu Coin, the Imperial Warlord. How about that? Mando and Zeb go capture Coin very easily. It takes like 5 minutes and nobody's killed.
Barely an inconvenience.
But, oh no, Mando has betrayed the Hutts because they want to kill Rotta. After the job is complete, Mando returns to his home and to take a break. As he's resting, though, the bounty hunter Imbo shows up. Who's Imbo, you might ask? Well, he's from an animated show that began airing in 2008. That's all right. Imbo captures Mando, and now Grogu teams up with several Babu Fricks to go rescue him. No, I'm not making these names up. These are real characters in Star Wars. They hop into a spaceship the size of a small bird and fly all the way to Now Hutta. Now, it's worth pointing out these creatures are not stupid, whereas the only conclusion for how Grogu acts throughout the show and movie is that he literally has some kind of inhibiting mental disability. These guys are ship engineers, yet somehow, not a single one of them were like, hey, maybe the full-grown man won't fit into the world's smallest ship. Mando has his helmet taken, which the real loser there is Pedro Pascal because it meant he actually had to show up to work. He fights a giant dragon snake, but is poisoned by it. He is then saved by Grogu. It's worth noting here, Mando knows Grogu can force heal. He has no way of knowing it won't be able to neutralize the poison, but he is definitely aware he can heal people. So when Mando sends Grogu away with the Babu Fricks, the only reasonable conclusion here is that Mando is so sick of Grogu, he would just rather die instead of trying to be healed. Grogu, however, does come back and protects Mando. Oh, it's so cute. He meets a lizard guy who happens to not only be nice, but also have the one thing Mando needs, and he feeds it to him, which wakes Mando back up. Mando then states the alleged theme of the movie.
The old protect the young, and then the young protect the old.
Movies just do this now. The whole point of a theme is that you actually show characters developing and changing based on the theme around of the story, and that lends itself to solidify said theme in the story. Nowadays, movies just have a character say what they want the theme to be, and that's it. There is no substance that strengthens or supports the themes. Oftentimes, it completely contradicts it. Mando then goes back to fight the Hutts. Rotta disgustingly fights the twins in one of the most unsettling forms of combat ever, where they just kind of roll all over each other. Grogu tames a dog, and Mando has a hand-to-hand fight with Imbo. In a complete vacuum, I do kind of enjoy the hand-to-hand fight between Mando and Imbo. Despite decent enough choreography, there are no stakes because Mando's literal plot armor prevents him from actually taking damage, but still, it's kind of fun. The fight ends with Rotta, the twins, and Imbo falling into the dragon snake pit. Grogu uses the Force to save Rotta. Again, he can lift heavy things, and he just chooses not to at certain points. The twins are eaten, and Imbo flees. Then the octogenarian fighter pilot squad shows up to save the day. 76-year-old, who's not quite an octogenarian, so she might be the youngest in the group, actually. Sigourney Weaver flies in, accompanied by 3 old men. One of them is, of course, Trapper Wolf. Who's Trapper Wolf, you might ask? Well, he's a man-child self-insert of a character he thinks is badass because he wears a cowboy hat, and his name is Trapper Wolf. It's like a 5-year-old who created that. Mando is flown back to the Rebel base. Rotta decides he's going to join the Rebel Alliance. That's right, despite the whole movie being about Rotta wanting to escape his father's shadow and become his own man, he follows in his father's footsteps of being a Rebel ally.
Guys, the rebels are here.
Not bad.
But not enough.
The rebels.
You'll never guess who did that. The space battle. Fucking Jabba. The
this happened right before Leia strangled him, right? So Jabba helped the rebels and then got murdered by the rebels.
Ah, what a masterpiece Star Wars Outlaws was. Mando has no character development throughout the whole movie. Pedro Pascal doesn't even try to put emotion behind his voice when he's acting. Grogu has no character and still can't speak. The character has already had no character, has somehow then regressed the little bit of character he did have since the show because he's dumber and acts more like a baby. Rotta has some of the worst dialogue ever and technically has a character, although his development is rather stupid, consisting of him saying he's going to not follow his father's footsteps, and he's doing that by not following in his father's footsteps, and then ends the movie by not following in his father's footsteps. Or again, depending on your Star Wars Outlaws playthrough, is kind of following his father's footsteps.
Jabba saved the rebels.
Other than that, there are no characters of any discernible note in this movie. Sigourney Weaver's gone in like 3 minutes. The twins are irrelevant and kind of go away. Zeb is just there so that people go, oh, it's Zeb from the Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever. Johnu Coin is stupid. His capture is dumb. He is very obviously the Imperial guy the second you meet him. Either way, The Mandalorian and Grogu is a movie where 3 to 4 episodes of a bad TV show were chopped up, some strange strings were created to tie the episodes together, the script of the episodes never got a second draft, and it ultimately creates a bad movie. This movie is useless corporate slop in the truest sense of the words. Compare this buddy space movie with the likes of Project Hail Mary, a movie filled with heart and soul, a movie where a literal rock is personified into a way that will draw real emotion, when the literal rock is willing to sacrifice himself. In this movie, a small green alien with a human facial features has no persona. There's no character to be found in Grogu. He's just there to sell merch and so that people go, oh, look, wasn't it cute when he ate the cookie? Star Wars' biggest problem comes down to a lack of intelligence in the overall movies. Again, compare the first 10 minutes of the movie to the first 30 of Empire Strikes Back, and you can see the extreme difference. Instead of just chugging out of a pipe of slop and excusing it by saying, oh, well, it's fun, or that's Star Wars. Take 5 minutes and ask yourself why the movie you just watched even exists. A horrible disaster of a script and a rushed movie mixed with a questionable marketing strategy, to say the least, is what leads to what was once the greatest cinematic franchise ever, which could release lazy trash like The Force Awakens and make $2 billion, to having an astronomical 70% drop off in its box office in its second weekend off of a already really low opening, losing out to 2 low-budget horror movies directed by YouTubers, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Backrooms, go check it out. It's very good. It's not going to be Star Wars' first flop, but it's absolutely going to be its biggest. The streaming numbers of all Star Wars awful shows are hidden behind the vaults of Disney+, but The Mandalorian and Grogu provides real data with a box office that cannot be hidden, and it reveals one stark truth that not only for the fans, but for creativity, Star Wars is in a very sad state. Thank you for watching or listening. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Feel free to comment if you disagree. And as always, thanks for watching.